My name is Mike Brightman with Brightman Designs. Thank you guys very much for coming in today for our SketchUp is BIM webinar. And today what we're talking about is really how SketchUp is really evolving into a BIM solution. So we're going to talk a little bit about, just touch on my book and the strategies in there, and how the ConDoc tools expedite everything from the book and really open up this world of BIM drafting. And then we'll also talk just a little bit about Lumion and how we can use the same model that produces our construction documents and our design packets. That same model can be moved into Lumion or other rendering softwares and create your photorealistic animations and presentations. And then ultimately we're going to move into, go back into SketchUp and just take a look at, there's two plugins that are pretty cool for Build Edge for building roofs and also doing a lot of other stuff. And then also there's another cool plugin called Rename by Layer. And I want to show you how that kind of contributes to the BIM experience in SketchUp. So let's get started though. I'll click on this presentation mode and let's move to our next slide. Okay, so first off, building information modeling. I guess we need to kind of define that just a little bit. This definition is rather generic and it's kind of lengthy, but really what I get out of this is that building information model, it represents, let's move to the next slide. It's a shared digital building prototype that helps everyone on the design team make better decisions. So really don't need to read off that technical definition. What I gather from that is that this is a shared building prototype, helps us make better decisions, and the model not only shows the client what a building will look like, but it also gives the client and the designer a better understanding of how the building will function. So it's not just aesthetics, it's also looking at clash detection, how we're going to put this thing together, how the building, all these systems are going to kind of play together and work together. Okay, so ultimately though, BIM is a concept, it's not a software. Oftentimes people get kind of hung up on the fact that, or this thought that Revit is BIM and that is it. Really any software, whether it's, typically it needs to be 3D, or that's what we associate with BIM, but really BIM is a concept, it's a way of drafting, it's a way of getting ourselves organized throughout the design and building and construction process. It's not a specific software. So let's take a moment then to identify the common features of BIM. So first off, I think 3D modeling, we could probably all agree that in order for something to be considered a BIM solution, we have to be working in 3D. Also, a model lifecycle use. So in other words, you're going to use this model from schematic design all the way through construction documents, and ideally you're going to pass it off to a facilities manager, and then they're going to use that model to continue to troubleshoot the building or calculate square footages or make new systems, furniture plans, whatever it may be. They'll continue using that model. There needs to be an interoperability with consultants and their CAD platforms. So it's no good if I'm going to be using my BIM system and I can't communicate with anyone else. There needs to be a dynamic link between the 3D model and the 2D construction documents. So one way or another, there needs to be a linkage between these diagrams and the model. Whether you're producing your drawings and then the 3D model is a product of that, or if you are producing a 3D model and your diagrams are a product of that, there needs to be a dynamic link so that if I move a wall in one, it moves in the other. Okay, some other common features of BIM. Here's a good example of photorealistic rendering and ray tracing. So that's a SketchUp model on that image below, and then the image above was rendered with twilight render. So also some other common features of BIM would be parametric modeling, both input and output. So the ability to constrain a model basically using a spreadsheet. In SketchUp, that's dynamic components. A lot of other BIM programs have these types of just parametric input, always tracking your data and counting things for you and controlling different parameters of objects. Clash detection, that probably should have been first. That's kind of the number one thing we think of when we talk about the common features of BIM. Definitely energy analysis, cost analysis, and 4D construction phasing and schedule management. Those last few, those are all kind of the standard issue BIM features. Now, let's take a moment to talk about what I describe as the required features of a BIM drafting system. So this is the bare minimum. This is where we need to start. So first off, I do need to be able to create construction documents. I think we all agree that as digital as we become, we do still like to build off of nice clean sheets of paper. We also want to control line weights. We need to work within industry graphic standards, and we want to have a dynamic link between our 3D model and our 2D diagrams. So that needs to be both between with the lines and the hatch. So by that I mean if I move a wall in my model, then on my drawings I want the lines to the wall to move, and I also want the hatch to move with it. I definitely need to be able to communicate with consultants. I need a clear system of standards that everyone on the team can work within. And then the system, this BIM drafting system, it needs to be scalable for any project size and also flexible for any project type, whether that's new construction or renovation. So what we've done with the SketchUp workflow for architecture and the ConDoc tools, these together, they basically unlock all of these required features of a BIM drafting system. So let's take a look at what I mean by that. So let me tap Escape. And we're going to hop over into SketchUp. And so, this is a recent project that we've been working on. And let me just take a quick peek at the chat panel. Looks like we're still good to go. Okay, so this is our existing conditions model. So if you've read my book, you'll see some of the strategies for going out and field measuring, and we actually use these strategies all the time. So like these are field notes that we took when we were visiting the house there and measuring, and then we built this existing conditions model off of that, and then we switch over to our proposed conditions. And so here you can see hey Zach, will you send a chat message and help them sign in? Cool. Okay, so now this is our proposed conditions model. So let's just take a lap through this and start to understand why this is a BIM model. So first off, we have our layering system. I guess that's really one of the most important features here, is that we keep things organized using our model organization strategies and layering. So there's the architectural layers, there's conceptual layers, and there's site layers. So think of the architectural layers and the site layers as nouns, the conceptual layers are adjectives. So, okay, so let's take a look at this though. So here you can see I have selected this group, and this group is on the layer architectural roof. So that's what allows me to control that visibility and see, turn off all of my roofs. All right, so then I'm just going to hide these roofs for now, and then I'm going to click once on this second floor. Notice that this is on conceptual level 2. All right, so that's the first level of model organization. I assign the level, I double click in, and I'm going to hide the rest of the model. So this is everything that is contained in level 2. You can see I have windows, I have doors, I have walls. So any of those architectural items that need to be created to compose level 2 go in this level 2 container. So here's my walls, and you can see that's on the layer architectural walls. So I'll double click in, and now I can click on my interior walls, and you notice those are on conceptual interior, exterior walls are in conceptual exterior, and then let's go one step further. I double click in here, and now we've got conceptual new. So what this means is that in order to see these walls, I need to back all the way out. I can go to my all off scene, turn all of my layers off. In order to see my level 2 interior new walls, I need to go to level 2, turned on. Walls needs to be turned on. New needs to be turned on. And my interior needs to be turned on. So there's my level 2, and then level 1 is also turned on right now. I wanted that off. So that's how when we pick our models apart in this way and organize them in this way, it allows us to reverse engineer them, pick them back apart, and create any of the drawings that we need. Allows us to create the backgrounds that we want for consultants and gives them the flexibility to control line weights and build the drawings they need. And it allows us to control line weights, create dynamic hatches, and a lot of other things. So that's really the cornerstone of everything that this system rides on. So so we've looked at that. Let me save this as my desktop temp, and I'm just going to call this BDS Pontiac Street. And we'll post this model after this, so you guys can go ahead and grab this and kind of break this thing down and pick it apart for yourselves too. So when I look at this, let's do take one other look at this template that we provide. So we have all on, all off. These are our layer states. We have interior, we have exterior, and we have site. So layer states allow us to jump around in our model in a very controlled way and get to where we need to be to see what we're working on. So if you stick with this model organization system and this layering system I've developed, then all of these work, and we provide this template for you as well. So now we have some presentation utility scenes, such as design. So that's what turns off all the bells and whistles, makes things move real fast. 3D perspective, that's just for creating 3D drawings, turns our shadows on. Essentially, that does the opposite of design. 2D drawing gives us that CAD style output. Now this one's really cool, the scope diagram. Now what you're seeing here, if I go back to all on, and let's just get rid of our site here for a moment, you can see that when you're on the scope diagram, this is a color by layer style. And so what that means is that if I were to hide these, I can see the existing walls and the existing doors, and I can see my new wall. So this project evolved in such a way that we pretty much blew out the entire house, but you can really start to see that if you were kind of picking apart a rather large existing building, this is a pretty valuable diagram to have to really understand where you're at in the model. So I use this all the time when I'm designing, because if I wanted to add a new wall, let's say I just want to put a wall across here, well, I can just start double clicking into my new walls. And this way I don't always have to be hung up on which layer I'm drafting on, because once everything is layered for me, I can just make sure that I put things in the correct container. So now that wall that I just created is drawn in the correct place because it's all in that embedded into those different levels of the model. So I'll just tap Control Z a couple times. We don't need to have that wall on there. Okay, and then we can always get back to where we were by clicking on Design. And then, so really, I think that's a pretty strong BIM feature of SketchUp. And we haven't even gotten into the ConDoc tools or any plugins yet. So that's just letting your model inform you and inform your design, and just being more aware of what's actually happening in your project as you're working on it. Just click on that design, or I'm sorry, that scope diagram. Just to finish off, the axis check, that shows you, it's great for troubleshooting problematic geometry. Orient faces shows you the fronts and backs of faces, so if you're going to be doing photorealistic rendering in a program like Lumion, then you want all of these faces to be pink. And then finally, if you have a grid shift in your model, like if I had a 45-degree grid shift, it's real nice to be able to click on the 45 and see that our rectangle tool is now on axis, and then I click to 90, and now we're on the other axis. Oops, let me go to layer 0. All right, so let me just undo all that. Okay, so now let's take a look at how, if you were to build a project in this way, I don't know if you've ever created all of the scenes that are needed in order to send a project to layout, but at times that can be rather difficult. So in order to create or it's not so much difficult as it is time consuming, and there's a lot of opportunity for error. So let me show you what that looks like. Typically you go to camera, standard views, and you go to front, and then you would, or we'll go to the side here. Let me just right click on this face and choose align view. And then I would go to camera, parallel projection, and then I go to my styles and choose some other style. Then I would likely turn on my shadows and do a whole bunch of steps. Then I'm going to go to my scenes dialog, click on the plus sign, and rename that scene, make sure all of my properties to save are checked on. So there's quite a few steps there, quite a bit of, several opportunities for error. And what we've done with the ConDoc tools is really isolate all of those opportunities for error. So here's our elevation tool. If I want to add an elevation to the front of this house, I just click on the front, and with one click, everything that just happened was everything I described. Camera, standard view, the front view, parallel projection, set my style up, renamed, set up my new scene called LO Elevation 1, did all of that with one click. Let me do it again on this side. Click once, there's Elevation 2. I'll move around to the back. There's Elevation 3, and then we'll just keep spinning around this house and Elevation 4. All right, so now we've got that all set up, and now we want to add some section planes. So I want to cut a section through this. I know that this space is a little bit interesting here, so we'll just drop that right on that window, and look at what that does. It throws our section plane in, and let me close this and save this, and then we're just going to reopen it. I've got something goofy happen with my graphics card, so we'll just kind of redo that, and we'll keep on moving forward. There's section AA. Okay, so there's our section. Now let me orbit around. I want to chop another section through this back room here, so we'll do that. There's section BB, and then maybe one more. We'll drop a section cut through this space here. So you can see how much easier it is, and how fewer opportunities for error you have when all of those steps involving layers, scenes, and styles are all being taken care of for you. All right, so now let's go back over to our design tab, and we'll turn off our section planes, and then go to camera parallel projection, toggle that off, just because I like to work in the perspective view. So we've got all of our elevations and our sections. Now I want to set up my plans. So I activate my plan generator. We're on a renovation project. We're in the proposed conditions model, and there's 2 floors. The top floor, we're going to call that 12 feet. The bottom floor, we're going to call it 1 foot off grade. And we're just going to create all of these different plans. Those are all the plans that we want to create when we move into layout. We're really only going to work with construction plan. But what I want to show you is what this plan generator actually does. So let me look at my audio here. Let me turn that up a little bit. Hopefully that's helping out just a little bit. So is that better? Okay. Let me maybe dial it down a little. Is that better? Okay. Very good. Okay, I'm probably coming blasting through on everyone's speakers now, but thanks for the heads up there. Okay, so now we'll click on Setup Project, and watch what happens. It just starts pumping out all of these scenes. So all of those scenes, if you've read my book, are in Chapter 20, and they're explained in those scene organization diagrams. There is a ton of work that just happened with one click of a button. So let's look at what we've created. So we've got in our scenes dialog, just one moment here. Okay, so we'll get rid of our components. So I think it's always a good idea to save whenever you're messing with any plugins. So we've got elevation 1, 2, 3, 4, section A, B, and C. And now look at all of these plan scenes. What those do is those end up stacking in layout. So that's how we can achieve all of these line weights and hatches. So if you look at this, like construction plan light, you can see that everything in that scene is kind of on the light layer. Everything on the heavy scene is going to show up as a heavy line weight. And then hatch A, you can see if we stack all these drawings on top of each other, we're going to end up with one complete floor plan with line weights and dynamic hatches. Now let me show you how that looks in layout. So we'll go back into layout and click on File, New. And we're going to go to start a new document with our template. And we've got 11 by 17 landscape presentation style. Now, if you've ever worked in layout, you know that typically you go to File and choose Insert, and then I would go to my desktop temp folder, and then I would look up that, let's look for that model that we just created there, our BDS 2615 Pontiac. So I would insert that into layout. Then I would have to go to my SketchUp model tab and select elevation 1. I'd have to go to, we want that to render as likely a hybrid. And then we would want to go in and set a scale. So you got to do all of those different steps in order to get one elevation in. Now with the ConDoc tools, we've expedited that part as well. So I'll go into my scrapbooks, and we've got our ConDoc elevation. So we start, when we go to elevation, you can see we have 1/8, 1/4, 3/4, half, elevation 1. This elevation 1 corresponds to the scene name that I added with my elevation tool in SketchUp. So I want to add some 1/8" elevations. So what I'll do is just click and drag and drop this guy in over here. There's elevation 1 and elevation 2 and elevation 3. And then lastly, elevation 4. So just like that, we've dropped all these in, and keep in mind that these are scrapbooks, and everything about these scrapbooks that we're dropping in are all optimized. Your line weight, your scene, your scale, your render setting, your everything is all optimized for you, ready to go. So you don't have to mess with any of that stuff. You just drop these things in and build your cartoon set. So now let's go to our sections. So I'll go to our section, and we're going to do the same thing. I'll drag in section, we'll do 1/4 inch section AA, and then we'll go to section BB. We'll just do A and B. And then the last thing we want to do is add some plans. So I'll go to my construction plan. So you can see that when we were choosing which plans we wanted to create, all of those plans are now available in layout. So construction plan AA, I can go with an 1/8" plan on level 1. So we'll do that. And then let's go to level 2, 1/8" construction plan there. And then we're going to add one scene, and on level 1, or I'm sorry, we're going to add one page, go back to level 1, and then we're going to drop in a 1/2" enlarged plan. Again, everything is already optimized for you, so you don't have to go in and stack all of these viewports and get everything all lined up. So here's our cartoon set. We've got enlarged plan, floor plans, sections, and elevations. Let me save this just in case. Whenever we got all this screen sharing happening, I want to make sure we don't crash out. So we'll just save that as the same without the SKP in my temp folder. Now, and then let me just make sure, I can't remember for sure if I saved this model in SketchUp. You always want to save that before you relink it. Now, if I look at my references under File, Document Setup, References, there's always going to be, whenever you add these scrapbooks in, there's going to be these relink this file prompts. So I'll click on relink this file, and we're going to relink that one to my desktop temp folder, and here's my Pontiac Street. Alright, so that's going to crunch it down, and it should condense these other, oh yeah, lots of screen sharing going on. Okay, so stand by for one moment here. Let me reopen layout, and let's try that again. Alright, so okay, so we want this guy, file, open. Okay, so we just need to relink these files. So this one, relink this file, and we're going to go to this Pontiac Street, and then we'll relink this one. Okay, and then we're going to relink this one as well, so Pontiac Street. So whenever you add in all of those different scrapbooks, you just need to relink them, and now the task is simply to rearrange the drawings on your page and set them up as you want them to be. So, and that's what we can do there. There's our elevations, and then let me look at the next page. We're on auto render. There's our sections. So there we go. Stretch those around. And then the next page is my floor plan. And then, so those guys, same thing. I just need to stretch them around until I can kind of see the geometry that I want to see in my viewport, like that. All right, and then I can rotate them around. I can arrange them on my sheet, whatever it is I need to do to make this, to set up my page. Now, let's say, and then when I zoom in on this, you can see we've got all of our hatches are already set up. So our exterior walls have one hatch, our interior walls have another hatch. And if you think about it, construction documents, I mean, these tools are titled the construction document tools, but what we've just created is a design packet. So if we were to add a bunch of dimensions, notes, callouts, details, then these are going to evolve into construction documents. But truth be told, design packets are basically construction documents without all the detail. So the construction document tools expedite these design packets as well as really any phase of the design process. So let's briefly hop into SketchUp again. And you know, actually, let me just open up this project. Actually, I'm going to change directions one more time. Scrapbooks. We have our linear style scrapbook over here. So that's what allows you to very quickly add like wall type key, area calculations, drawing titles. You just go and drop these things in. You can drop in your room tags. And then once all these guys are in place, you just kind of go in and start double clicking on text and call this your living room. So with these tools, with our scrapbooks, and just by a lot of the native functionality of SketchUp and layout, this process is extremely fast. So let me open up this final, I'll open up this actual project and show you what that looks like. So we'll go up to our Dropbox, and we'll go into Pontiac Street, and this is our proposed conditions presentation. All right, so now you can see we've got some renderings. We're going to get to that in just a moment. So here we have our plans, everything all set up, nice and clean, and we have our elevation. So I'll make sure to share these files so you guys have something that you can kind of break down and pick apart yourself. Okay, so now another big part of any design packet or any built project in general is some kind of visualization. We talked about that as one of our common features of a BIM program. Now, you can get that done in SketchUp by using a handful of different plugins. So one of my favorite plugins in SketchUp for photorealistic rendering is Twilight Render. I know a lot of people like Podium, and a lot of people like Shaderlight as well. I'm not as familiar with those, but Twilight, that was my favorite for a long time until I found Lumion. So let me hop over into Lumion and see if that's gonna further flex our graphics card, and I'll show you how we can just drop our SketchUp model that is producing our construction documents or our design packet. It's going to go right into Lumion and create our animations and renderings as well. So this might be pushing it. Let's see. Okay, so we'll just start with a brand new scene, and I'm going to import that exact same model that we've been working on in SketchUp into Lumion. And okay, just want to check the chat panel there. Okay, so we're going to import a new model. We'll add a new model. I'll go to my desktop, temp, And here we have this file we've been working on, so I'll just drop this right in. All right, so now what's happening here is we're seeing the last saved view of SketchUp. And then I dropped an extra one in there. So typically what I would do is in SketchUp, I need to kind of get my SketchUp model prepped a little bit. So I'm going to go all on, design, and then go to camera, go to our perspective mode, and let's see, really the only thing I need to do is hide my background drawing and hide my context and hide my my entourage. At this point, I'm ready for Lumion. I'm going to hit save and go back into Lumion and refresh that link. All right, so we'll just refresh that, and then we'll see our full model come back in. There we go. All right, so now here's in Lumion. One thing I like about this is just the level of success you have right away with the weather. You can add some more clouds. You can add less clouds. You can make the sun go down, and you kind of get that like hazy sky. So there's just a lot of rendering programs. It's very difficult to even get to this point, and I found that in Lumion it was so easy, and that's what I really liked about it. All right, so now really all you need to do is assign glass, grass, and water. So in this particular model, we just need to add our glass, and we have some presets. So you can see we have this little glass. Now we're getting our reflections, and we'll just add one more material, and we're gonna make that landscape. Now what that looks like, when I go to my landscape tab, I can turn on my 3D grass, and then let's like just drop down a little bit. There's my grass. So the grass size is small, the grass height is really tall, and this gives your models that like really grounded, soft look where it's actually sunk down into the grass. This grass will actually render all the way up to the house. It's just kind of tapering off to conserve resources. So in Lumion then we can go in and add our objects. Go to your trees. There's a ton of different objects. You just go in there and start dropping these things around wherever you want them, and it's just extremely fast. So let me even if you wanted to add lights, we can go turn the sun down, and then you can kind of see what's going on there. We'll go into our objects and add some lights. We have all these different lights we can choose from, and just start clicking on that surface to drop those in. So if I were being real careful about this, I'd probably get a little bit better of a product, but that's pretty awesome for just a couple minutes, and being able to achieve that level of success. So let me hop over to my files, and I'm going to import this model that we've actually been working on. So I'll go to my Dropbox again, Brightman Design Studios, and Pontiac Street. And let's just import that in because we've already got this one kind of set up. And I just want to show you how fast this can actually render. All right, so this is kind of a cool effect for fall. We've got our falling leaves, we've got a fire in the fireplace. But let's hop back out front. And you can see we've added some landscape here. And there's our grass kind of kicking in. So we also have some scenes already set up. So I can just get back to those scenes really quick like this. Now, traditionally rendering something like this would take a really long time. So we're going to render this as a 1280 by 720 JPEG. I'll send that to my desktop and call it image 1. And watch how fast this renders. So that's 6, 7 out of 16 passes, a couple seconds, and we've got that one rendered. So that's the major difference with Lumion, is that you get these really nice, really clean trees, and they all respond to weather and the environment. And then the speed of building the model and also the speed of rendering the model is really unmatched. That goes for animations as well. You've got this movie studio, so I can say I want to start here, and then I want to kind of move over this way and stop there. Now, what does that look like? So this is going to be my shot. I can slow it down a little bit, and we'll say okay. And then if we were to render that out, We can do that at 30 frames per second at the top quality. Let's just do 1080. We'll do 720 at 2 stars, and watch how fast this one renders. So this will tell us there's about 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. Not even a minute. So this really opens up the ability for anyone who's working with any sort of model to produce animations and renderings. And it's also really this extreme efficiency of linking this to your design model. And it's not only for SketchUp. Lumion definitely works with Revit and all the other BIM platforms. All you have to do is get into a Collada, 3ds, OBJ, DWG format, and you can just run that right into Lumion and maintain that same efficiency that I'm showing you with SketchUp. All right, so I'm going to tap Escape and cancel that. We don't need to render that out. And so what you end up with, though, these are our final renderings for that project. And what we do is we just overwrite these images in our presentation, and then you can right click and just choose Update Image Reference. So it's a very, very efficient way, really lets you design right up until the last second. So we've gone through the ConDoc tools. We've talked about some of those BIM features, and then we also looked at Lumion and photorealistic rendering, but now we want to get into a handful of other plugins. So these are just some plugins that I'm really psyched about, that I'm using on just about a daily basis. I always throw them out there and tell people about them because I don't have a whole lot of tutorials on these, but they're really not that hard to learn. Scalp, for instance, has done a great job with their tutorials, but when it comes to visually presenting your sections, Scalp is an excellent option for creating these sections with realistic, like, hatch patterns and dynamic hatch patterns, and just the ability to really do professional sections without having to dress them up in layout. Really like this plugin. Also, we just talked about Lumion. If you were to go to Brightman Designs, Lumion USA is listed there. And then another really, and I'm sorry, and if you ever need a free, there is a free version at Lumion3D.com, but if you ever need a trial of Lumion, we can issue 1 week long unwatermarked trial versions, and that's just shoot me an email with your information. I'd be glad to help you out with that. Let me see. I think I might have gotten just a touch off script here because I lost my SketchUp as BIM presentation. So let me look at that for just a moment, and then we'll go over here. Okay, so let me get back on track here, because this is there's some important information on the screen right there. There's a $100 off promo code for one. So that's shown there, SUBTQ1FTN. If you were to go buy SketchUp Pro and enter that, you can get yourself $100 off. So some advantages of using SketchUp in layout as BIM. So for one, it's extremely inexpensive, and also it's an extremely lightweight install. Not to mention that the file sizes are very manageable too. SketchUp is very approachable. It's really like using a familiar 2D CAD in a 3D environment. And real-time rendering is what sold me on SketchUp. What you see is what you get. Even though it's just a little cartoony, I like the way it looks, and it lets me, it really lets me see what I'm going to get without kind of living in that CAD cyan, magenta colored lines, the black background, and then hitting render and hoping that everything comes together, or hoping my line weights come out. With SketchUp and layout as BIM, what you see is what you get. Some other advantages are that the diagrams are derived from the 3D. I explained that and demonstrated that pretty clearly, but really where you could compare that is a lot of the other BIM programs, you would essentially be drafting your construction documents, and then your 3D model is a product of that. So I think it's better to think and design in 3D and then have your diagrams as a product of that. So that's the way that SketchUp and layout works, is that you think and design in 3D, and your construction documents or your diagrams are a product of that design model.
This lack of intelligence in SketchUp is truly a blessing in disguise. There's a lot less questions to answer. So as you're going along, you don't have to build a wall type, you just build a wall. You draw a square and push it and pull it. You don't have to answer a ton of questions about what's going in this wall, how are we building it, because probably you don't really know. You just want to kind of get things figured out first. And ultimately, plugins fill in the BIM blanks. So a lot of people ask, why is it that the new version of SketchUp, is it worth updating, and why aren't there more new features? But the truth is, it's always worth upgrading to the latest version. They're always cleaning things up, making it faster, adding these little tweaks, and a couple new tools. But the lack of new actual tools is solved by the extension warehouse or plugins. So we can fill in the BIM blanks by using all of these different plugins. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about, there's a plugin, 4D Virtual Builder for SketchUp, and then also Build Edge and PlusSpec. Build Edge I'm pretty familiar with. PlusSpec, I've just kind of tinkered with it, and I love their demonstrations. And then 4D Virtual Builder, I haven't spent a lot of time in there, but really what they're presenting, it's not exactly my needs. And that's what's great about SketchUp, is that you don't buy this enormous software, this feature-bloated program that has all these bells and whistles and buttons and menus that I don't need, I don't use, and I don't want. I can build my own BIM program and pick and choose what I want. So even though I don't typically need a whole lot of 4D scheduling, well, there is that option. You can go and check this out, and they'll do that. So let's take a look at some of these plugins. I just wanted to take a lap through their website, and then I'll demonstrate how I use, I think we'll go with Build Edge and then one other extension. So let me jump back to where I was out. I talked about Scalp, it's a really cool plugin. I talked about where you can go to find Lumion USA. And lastly, let's get to PlusSpec. All right, so PlusSpec, these guys have created a tool that is extremely parametric. You build a wall, it essentially builds all the studs. You can choose wall types. Everything is like pre-built. You add your windows, you move your wall, your window goes with it. It doesn't play real well with my layering techniques and all that, but it doesn't mean that you can't use this to kind of get your design and then rework it into my layering techniques. Or maybe you use this and you just move into your BIM program, whatever it may be. It's very flexible. Everything we're talking about is easily implemented or abandoned at just about any time. So PlusSpec, definitely a really cool plugin. And this one, this is solving parametric modeling, this is solving cost estimating, and yeah, that's pretty much the two big ones they solved on the BIM side. This IES plugin, this is iesve.com. We'll post all of these links in a blog post, and we'll make sure we get everything out. But IES, these guys do energy analysis. I don't typically need this for the projects that I work on, but you guys might, and you could certainly go here and install this and give it a shot. Build Edge. This is a really awesome software. This is kind of in a similar line with PlusSpec. I would say that PlusSpec is a lot more on the side of estimating, whereas Build Edge is a lot more on the side of creating really quick models. And they've got this roof tool that I want to show you. It's just really, really powerful. So Build Edge is another one, and all these plugins, they're all very reasonably priced. I mean, ConDoc Tools is $150 for a year-long subscription. Build Edge is like $30. Scalp is $60 or $70. PlusSpec, I'm not positive on that one, but check them out. We'll post all these links, and you can kind of dig around. But let's get back into SketchUp, and let me show you. There's a plugin called, let's see, do I have, let me look at my toolbars here briefly, and let's see. Just got to dig around. Well, oh, maybe we don't have rename by layer on this one, so let me go to Window Extension Warehouse. And we're just going to install, this is how you install an extension, so I'll do rename layer. Let's see if we can't find it real quick. If I can't grab it, oh, there it is. Rename by layer. We'll click on install. What rename by layer does is it takes all of my groups and renames them based on the layer that they're on. Now it just so happens that our layering system with our architectural layers, our conceptual layers, it really fits in well with that naming convention. So this way, all of our group names are named by layer, and then when we look at our outliner, let's see, yes, when I look at my outliner, I now have a really clean, kind of a file tree structure to dig through my model and get to where I want to be. So it's asking me to update. We'll just say yes. Okay. All right, so that looks good. So let's do this. So here's our rename by layer toolbar, totally free. Now, if I click on rename by layer, and we want to rename all layers, we're going to do layer name. We don't want to add a prefix, the name and definition group, and we're going to rename groups and components. Now, if I go to my window outliner, let's see what that looks like. Right now, everything's just kind of called group. That's like the default. So when I rename everything, it's going to go through here and renames everything. So we've got, now we can kind of look at, we have our roof, level 1, level 2. And then when I break these down further, I can go into level 1 and I can rename those pieces. So it doesn't just go dig into your model, but watch this. It goes doors, fixtures, floors, walls, windows. So if you like to have this outliner view of your model, this is a really good way to kind of get around in your model. Now you can see windows. We could just keep on clicking rename. So those are new windows. Rename those. Go in here, rename. So you've got exterior, interior. So it just makes it, saves you a lot of time and gives you a little bit more of that BIM functionality of being able to pick through your model in this way. So I'll close that. The other plugin I want to demonstrate briefly is Build Edge. So if I were just to hide this roof, and let's see, and something's telling me I don't have Build Edge on here. There we go. Let's just see if this is going to work for us. Never know when you're dancing around between laptops and desktops. Okay, so we've got our roof mode. Okay, so Build Edge, what this does is it really lets you kind of define, leaning towards that BIM activity of building a wall type, or kind of identifying a bunch of those. We've got like wall mode. You can choose the width and the height. Pretty simple. And then you can, if I just show you out here, like what this looks like, you start building walls. So you're really saving a lot of clicks. I typically will use Build Edge more as a modeling tool rather than kind of trying to get in with this entire, using this entire Build Edge plan system. I typically model things up really quick, kind of piecemeal. So watch with the roof mode. I've got this on, it's a sloped roof, 4 to 12. We're just going to do standard. You could choose single parallel, double parallel. Those are kind of modeling terms. Truss or rafter. And we'll just go to our line tool, and I'm going to draw a line around my building. Now, I want to turn off my trim and my detail. There are 2 layers I want off. That way I can make a nice clean line. And I'm just going to go all the way around here. Like this. And I'll just cruise all the way past that one and then connect the dots there. And then look at that. It just builds that entire roof for me. That used to be a really, so we'll say okay. Now, that is geometry, and it's built extremely accurately. So if you use these plugins and use these different BIM features where they apply, you don't have to use them all and use them through the entire project. It's just use them where they fit in, and you will save your time. So we've recorded this meeting. Hopefully everything went well with that. We had a few issues on getting signed in and getting their audio going, but we will post this recording and kind of blast that out. And I suppose at this point, again, we're available at brightmandesigns.com. Give me a shout anytime. Glad to help training and visualization needs. And certainly if you need a demo of Lumion, we'd be glad to provide that. And I mentioned that we would be giving away a promo code for ConDoc tools for $25 off, and we'll make that SketchUp is BIM. That will be the promo code. Will just be SketchUp is BIM, and we'll send an email out for that for everyone who registered as well. So thank you guys very much for coming in, and we really appreciate you sharing these and participating. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to help out with that. And I'm going to take everybody off our presentation mode. So it might get a little hectic for a minute, and we'll hear some questions, and feel free to type questions in the chat panel. But otherwise, we'll be talking. Thank you very much for coming.